Good morning, everybody. This is DVS. If you saw the video, this is going to be the exact same video, the WildStar recap. I had a lot of audio problems with that one video that I did record, if you did get the chance to see it. And I, I, I tried watching it, I got 15 minutes in, and I just couldn't stand the crackle anymore. It just kind of like, just cut me with a knife, pretty much, right down the center of my head. So, yep, this is basically the WildStar Recap 2.0. If you were the 15 viewers that luckily saw the original version of this, so yeah, I'm just gonna remake it. And so today I want to talk about the WildStar classes. I want to talk about trade skills, and even the content. Now, this is just a recap, everything that I've seen in the beta so far. So if you are new to WildStar, you don't know much about WildStar, and you just want to learn a little bit more, you know, this video is probably going to be about 20 minutes long. I would say the first 10 minutes we'll just be talking about classes, so if you just want to stick around for that, that is cool. That's going to be the majority of the video. But there's some neat information and tools that I got for trade skills if you want to skip through, or if you just want to wait. And I got some just talking about content in general, like raids and dungeons and endgame. So you can skip to that, or you can stay around for the whole video for that as well. And this is more or less just a lot of this stuff is my personal opinion, but I try to stay as collective as possible, so that it's not just what I think about it, but what is, the general consensus. So yeah, the one thing I wanted to just talk about and emphasize for one of the classes is the warrior. Because the warrior's been receiving a lot of flack lately on the forums and stuff. And honestly, I've played the warrior. I really like the warrior. I have a lot of fun with the warrior. Now, I originally started with an NG, and I mainly went into the tanking side of things, but I still had a lot of fun with the warrior, and I don't think the warrior is that bad. I think people just don't know how to play him that right, and I believe he's more of a character that progresses a lot better while he gets higher in levels. And now I'm just going to talk about that. So the warrior does get stronger the higher the level you are. Right now we're capped at level 25. He is not. I wouldn't consider warrior an equal to the NG just as right now. I believe me personally, the NG does take the cake. It takes the cake over the warrior. Just currently though. I've done a lot of theory crafting with the warrior. I've really looked into the warrior just in depthly. Just more just looking at his ratios, looking at what abilities he has available to him, as well as the amps. If you look into the warrior's amps, you'll notice a lot of tier 3 amps that just make the warrior kind of OP. You should really go to WS Base, WildStarBase.com, and just look under the warrior tab. Go to your amps, view hidden, and just look at the stuff he has available to him. While above 50% shields, he increases 25% of his armor, and that's really good. That's like having an extra quarter of you onto you. And to the pain, taking damage that would kill you instead restores 1,363% of health, but drains 136.3% every 1 second for 15 seconds. You know what? This is, to me, this is kind of like the warrior is going to be really healer friendly, because if the warrior is just about to die and this amp pops, basically it gives the healers enough time to heal him back. And because this is going to be draining his it's going to drain the amount that he did get originally, so that huge boost of health, it's going to drain that originally, and then it's going to drain about 50% of that even more. So basically what that means is that when let's say he's a tank, let's say the warrior's a tank, if the warrior tank says to the pain is popped, well, that just means to the healer that he's going to have to really heal him a lot because he's going to have his full health bar completely drained, and then he's going to have 50% of that drained as well. Just looking at this and what the information is telling me, that's pretty much what's going to happen. So the healer really has to know in the back of his head that, oh crap, once I see him get a little bit low after to the pain, I gotta make sure I'm really keeping those heals up. And by keeping those heals up, even if he gets to full health, that's still going to be active and draining that health away. So it's something that healers just have to keep in mind. Now, moving on with the warrior, with proper rotations with the warrior is a very effective tank, and I'll show you what I mean. The bolstering strike, which you can unlock through your support amps, it does damage, but you also receive shields every 4 seconds. Now, if you have a macro set up, I don't know how you're going to have your keybinds set up. This is very good, especially once you add this with the emergency reserve, because all damage that is dealt to you will just go straight to your shield. So using this at low health will save you. It will save you on many occasions. And the nice thing about this too is that it's also really good in PvP because it grants you another interrupt armor. And I think that's really cool. That restores the health and makes all the damage go straight to your shields. And heck, you get an interrupt armor. Now, I don't know about the outgoing healing. The 107% increase. I think that's mostly for just potions. If you use a potion on you, increases the effectiveness of the potion. That's what I think it does. I have no idea. But I was always looking at that and I was like, is this for your potions? But we will see. We will see. If someone can answer that question, that'll be sweet. So moving on, I just want to rapid fire through these. Engineer right now is very good, especially at the low levels. He has a lot of really good amps available to him very early. And not only that, he has a lot of really good abilities that are just completely available to him right off the bat. And the nice thing about the engineer is that the engineer is a pet class, and the one pet, the bruiser pot, is really nice, especially if you know how to control him, because of some of the problems I've seen in dungeons is that the bruiser bot can flip the boss or the mob, and you can avoid this just by understanding the telegraph of the bruiser bot. So if you have the bruiser bot telegraph extended on the boss, the bruiser bot is going to flip him. But if you have your most nearest edge of your telegraph, that when you go to cast the bruiser bot to the boss, the bruiser bot will actually land in front of him. So it's just one of those things that just require a little bit of in-game skill knowledge just so that you can understand how it works. Now, engineer, I first played the engineer. The engineer is amazing. I love it. I had a lot of fun. If you like things that have like pets and a lot of utility built into them, check out the engineer. It's a fantastic class. Now, moving on to the Stalker. Now, I think the Stalker's really cool. It's basically like Wolverine that can go invisible. And the nice thing about the Stalker is that if you want to tank as a Stalker, you get a really good DPS of the Stalker. I really think that's kind of neat. The fact that even if it's 60% of your total, even if your damage output is 60% of what a DPS output is, in my mind, that's still very good for a tank. Because a tank should usually only do about maybe 40%, 45% of what a DPS should be able to do. The fact you could most likely do 60, 65, depending on how much you push it, that's kind of amazing. But as much amount of DPS you can do as a tank, that's not his true face. The Stalker is an evasion tank, so it's a lot of mechanical based, skill based players are going to play him because you have a lot of mobility, you have a lot of dodges, you have a lot of abilities that can get you out of slippy situations. And I think this makes the Stalker very unique because he is going to be that perfect hybrid of mechanics meets skills. So you're going to have to be able to press those buttons within a very fast amount of time with twitch-like reflex, because the Stalker can take hits, but he can't take really big hits. He can take, normal hits, like auto attacks from a boss, but not too many, because the Stalker, he does wear medium armor. His health pool isn't as big, and he does require a lot of special attention from healers just to keep him sustained, just to keep him within a 90% health rate. Now, moving on to where are you at? The medic. Okay. By the way, the DPS version for all these classes are fine. I don't really want to go into them because really what I've been noticing is that even with the warrior, it depends on the player with the DPS. Because if you don't finish a rotation as a DPS, you're not to do the most amount of damage. So I'm really not just I'm not talking really much about the DPS version of all these. I'm going to talk about more of the secondary, just because at the end of the day, DPS is DPS, and it's going to change upon player, and it's going to change upon how that player has his class set up. So yes, moving on to the medic. Now the medic, in my opinion, is a PvP god. He is really good for PvP. So if you're really looking for PvP and you want a really strong class right off the gate, right off the bat, go with the medic, because the medics right now are really dominating in the PvP scene. And a lot of people can back me up with this. But in the more PvE environment, he has sustain type heals, and it's very short heal telegraph. Now, you may be thinking about yourself, well, he can take hits then, right? Well, yeah, he can take hits and he can sustain himself really, really good. But the heals that he actually gives out isn't as good as the other two heal classes, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. Now, I find the medic, I like the medic. There is a need for the medic in a raid environment. There is a need. I'm not saying there is. But if you want to be a main medic, sorry, not a main medic. If you want to be a main healer within a raid environment, the next two classes is what you really want to just listen to what I say, talk about them. Now, to finish off the medic, he's not the best burst healer. Once again, like I said, he is sustain, so having him in a PvP environment, very, very strong. He can keep himself alive for a very long time, and he can generate some really good heals. But once again, if you're running a dungeon or if you're running an adventure, unless you're a very good medic, I'm finding mediocre medics in those PvE type environments really aren't that good. Really, they're not. Now, moving on to the Esper. Now, the Esper I consider a very traditional healer. She is pretty much your average healer. That's what she really feels like to me personally. And there's some people that do agree with me on this. Now, the one thing about the Esper that really makes the Esper really good is that her abilities are pretty much low focus cost compared to the brother class, which is the Spellslinger. Now, you might be thinking, well, does that mean they have low heals? No, I find the Esper has really good burst heals, but they're not the best burst heals. Now, because of this, it's because they have low focus costs, so you're really getting a big mix up between the focus amount to the heal amount. That's what you're going to see between the two classes. This one, Esper class, and the Spellslinger class, which we're going to talk about in a few. But the Esper I find is really good on maintaining focus. Reason why is because the Esper does have abilities that do generate off PSI. Now that's pretty much, if you generate a certain amount of PSI, it's pretty much like a free heal coming out of the Esper. And if you're very good at managing your abilities and knowing what's focus and what's PSI, you can really control your focus, the amount of that you're using and the amount that you can generate back. Now, if you look in the amps for the healers, they do have a lot of things that do help them with focus recovery and just like focus cost of spells. And there's a lot of things in here that just really help out a lot with the focus. And this is something that people really, they're going to have to invest in this. Even if it increases the heal amount, it's going to make that heal more effective so they don't have to cast it twice. So this is something that a lot of people are going to have to really experiment, kind of figure out how they want to set things up, because I've seen the Esper set up in 3 different ways, and honestly, all 3 of them are perfectly fine. Some lean more towards focus, heavy. Some lean towards more having some absorb shields up. You know, it changes from fight to fight and person to person. Now moving on to the brother class, the Spell Slinger. Let's see how far we are in. 15. Okay. So the Spell Slinger. I like the Spell Slinger. Spell Slinger's a lot of fun, especially when you're Chua. They just look so cute. Now, once again, I said I wasn't going to talk about the DPS, but the Spell Slinger DPS is actually very, very strong. You can put out a lot of DPS with the Spell Slinger, and because of their utilities, they have a lot of skills like blinks and threat drops, and they're just a really good light class DPS. If you want to play a very safe light class DPS that's going to do a lot of DPS and can be able to get out of a lot of situations, go with the Spellslinger. Spellslinger, in my mind, I think you're going to have at least 3 of these in the DPS for a raid, maybe at least 1 for a heal, just because the amount of things you can do to get out of attack ranges and amount of DPS they can actually put out is very amazing. Now moving on to the secondary side, the healing side, the Spellslinger has really good heals. I think it has the best burst heals right now, but they're all high focus based. All of the abilities are really high focus cost. There's some that are very low focus cost, like super low focus cost, so it really balances it out. So you got like a super low focus cost that only costs on per tick, and then you have really high focus costs that do really good heals. Now, the one thing that separates what separates the Spell Slinger from the Esper is the Spell Surge. Now, your Spell Surge pretty much makes it the double effectiveness of your the double effectiveness of the ability, and also it will do something else depending on the ability. It won't always just make it the double effectiveness. It's going to most likely do other stuff looking at the Spellslinger. Now, because of this, you're pretty much getting a free cast. Pretty much you're casting the ability twice at the very same time. It's a free cast. It's really nice. That's what I really liked about the Spellslinger. So I don't know if you're going to need to have a lot of heals. I've seen a lot of setups where they only have 4 heals on the bar and like 2 DPS abilities and 2 utility abilities, which I think looks really cool. But this is once again going to change from person to person. There are other abilities that do help with focus regeneration and just getting large bulks of it, and that's gathering focus and the amp abilities. So depending on how much you use, to how you set it up, to how much you can drain, to how effective you are with your spell surges, will really determine how quickly you're going to drain and focus. And this is something that's just going to require fine-tuning, and it's going to change from person to person. But yes, so far that's pretty much all the classes: Warrior, NG, Stalker, Medic, Esper, Spellslinger. These classes, if you want to, you can just go to wsbase.com. You can look through all the abilities. You can see the different styles. You can start doing some theory crafting. You can go on YouTube. You can watch people that have played them. Go on Twitch. Just type down WildStar on Twitch and you'll see all those videos, and you can scroll through them and you can see people leveling their medics or their spell slingers or the warriors, and basically that's just the best way. Just do the research and just see what you want to play once the game is launched. Or if you can get access into the beta, which a lot of people can very easily because they're handing out beta keys like candy, just try out every class. Even if you only make it to level 15, or that's how high as you want to go is level 15, even though the cap is 25, that's fine. As long as you can experiment with all the classes and get a feel for what your favorite one is. All I have to say, at least grind to 15 or 20, because once you get to 15 and 20, 15 you can do your first adventures to get the more group side tank healer with 3 DPS, some more organized PvE content. That's what I advise, and just grind that all the way to 20, and you'll get a really good sense of feel for that actual class. So, getting off of this, next thing I really want to talk about is trade skills. Now, this is something that you can find online. I'm going to have the link in the actual video. This all you need to do is just type down WildStar trade skills, and you'll see the interactive trade skill. Now, this is by Hep, and he did pretty much I think he based this off Chef Sarkarian. He must have did some other type of version of this. But I just quickly want to give you basic information. You can only have two trade skills at a time, and that's weaponsmith, armor, outfitter, tailor, technologist, architect, mining, survivalist, relic hunter. Farming, salvaging, and cooking is just something you can do right off the bat. Actually, no, cooking's level 15, and farming something different. Salvage you can do right off the bat. So weaponsmithing, as you can see, power cores you can buy, but you can also salvage. You don't have to salvage it, you can actually just buy these from vendors. But mining, you can need these ores, gems, and crystals, and basically that's what you're going to need to make your weapons, but also weapon attachments. So I'm finding that not only are you outfitter, you can make medium armor, but you can make support systems. And the armorer can make energy shields. Weaponsmith can make weapon attachments. Tailors can make bags. So every class is very important. There's no class. There's no class. There's no trade skill that's overpowered. Everything's important. Now, moving on to WildStar. WildStar has a lot of content, and basically you have to play through all this. The one thing I really want to talk about is that raids and dungeons. Now, the end-game content is that if you get to level 50, you can actually go back and do all your previous dungeons, and they're a lot harder versions. Now, this is really cool. This is just going to add a whole bunch more content that you can go through, and you go through your favorite dungeons again. And then you got your 20 mans, 40 mans. Now, the one thing is that in-game content is really designed to be very tough, but at the same time, you should enjoy it. So if you're not having fun with the in-game content, then either you have to switch up something yourself, or you're just going to have to find a different group of people to run with, because if you're not having fun with the in-game content, then there's no sense stressing yourself over. Now, for PvP, I just want to talk about war pods very quickly. This is awesome. Basically, you build a base. You have to pay and get supplies to build it, to actually queue up for this. And you can get like souls from raid dungeons, from raid bosses, and you can have a raid boss defend it. And it's going to be a very tactical based PvP where you have 40 versus 40, war plot versus war plot, and you have to get in and either disable or destroy the other person's war plot. Now, there's not really a lot of information I can go on about this, but basically it's going to be Death Fortress versus Death Fortress, which is going to be awesome. But yep, that's all I really have to show for today. I'm DVS Bodafet. We're DVS Gaming if you want to look for us in the Pergo server, PvP server. It's the only one there currently. You can just give me a PM on Bodafet, or you can contact other DVS members through our actual website. You can actually go to dvsgaming.org. You can sign up. You can join DVS Gaming. You can get our TeamSpeak information. You can talk to us in TeamSpeak. We can just have a blast and just have fun. And I'm DVS Bodo. I'm DVS Bodo. This is DVS Gaming, and we just talked about WildStar. Thank you and good night.